Commander Zephyrus walked slowly through the long hallways of the Grand Council building. His forelegs moved with care, and anyone could see the old wounds that marked his dark blue shell. Scars ran across his face like silver lines, and his left arm hung a little different than his right. Every step told a story of battles fought across the galaxy. The other beings in the hallway moved aside as he passed. Some showed respect with small bows. Others just stared at the famous war hero. Zephyrus had fought in more wars than most species had even heard of. His name was known on 1,000 worlds. Young soldiers studied his tactics in military schools. His victories had saved entire star systems, but today felt different. Today, nobody would believe what he had to say. The Grand Council chamber was huge. The ceiling reached so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Representatives from 47 different species sat in rows that went up like stairs. Some looked like giant insects. Others had scales or fur or skin that changed colors. A few floated in special tanks filled with gas or liquid. Zephyrus had seen all these species before. He had fought beside many of them. He had saved some of their worlds from invasion. But now, as he walked to the speaking platform in the center, he could feel their eyes on him. Not with respect this time, with worry. "Honored Council," Zephyrus began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "I come before you today with a warning. A warning about a species that could destroy everything we have built." Some council members looked up from their data tablets. Others kept reading, not really listening. Council leader Vorthak, a tall being with purple skin and 3 eyes, leaned forward slightly. "Continue, Commander," Vorthak said. "But please be brief. We have many matters to discuss today." Zephyrus took a deep breath. 3 years ago, my ship was damaged during a patrol mission. We had to make emergency repairs near a small solar system in the outer spiral arm. The third planet from the star caught our attention. It was blue and green, covered with water and land. Our scans showed it was full of life. "Many planets have life, Commander," interrupted Representative Clax, a being that looked like a walking tree. "Why should we care about one more?" "Because this planet has humans," Zephyrus said. A few council members laughed. Others made sounds of confusion. The name meant nothing to most of them. "Humans," Zephyrus continued, "are bipedal creatures. They walk on 2 legs, have 2 arms, and their skin comes in different shades of brown, black, and pink. They are not the strongest species. They are not the fastest. They do not have the best technology. But they are the most dangerous beings I have ever encountered." More laughter came from the council. Representative Quill, who had tentacles instead of arms, spoke up. "Commander, your service record is impressive. But perhaps you need rest. Surely no primitive species could be dangerous to our advanced civilizations." Zephyrus felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. He had expected this reaction. "Let me tell you what happened when we landed on their world," he said. "We needed rare metals to fix our engines. Our scans showed a small settlement nearby. We thought it would be easy to trade with the locals or simply take what we needed." The council chamber grew quieter. Even those who had been laughing were now listening. The human settlement had maybe 200 people, men, women, and their young ones. They had simple weapons, metal tubes that shot small metal pieces using chemical explosions. Nothing that could hurt our armor or shields. Zephyrus paused, remembering. "We landed near their town and demanded they give us the metals we needed." The humans talked among themselves in their strange language. Then an old human male stepped forward. He had gray hair and scars on his face. He looked at our ship, counted our weapons, and saw that we outnumbered his people 10 to 1. "And he surrendered," said Vorthak, "as any reasonable being would do." "No," Zephyrus said quietly. He smiled. The chamber fell silent. He smiled, and he said something in their language. Later I learned what it meant. He said, "Finally, something interesting." Zephyrus walked around the speaking platform as he continued. "What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about warfare. These humans did not line up for battle like civilized soldiers. They did not use standard tactics. Instead, they scattered like insects and attacked from everywhere at once. Surely your advanced weapons made quick work of them," said Representative Yix, a being made of living crystal. "You would think so. But humans do not fight the way other species fight. They turned everything into a weapon. Their farming tools became spears. Their transport vehicles became bombs. They dug holes in the ground and hid, then appeared behind us when we least expected it. Zephyrus stopped walking and looked directly at the council. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was their faces. Other species fight because they have to, because they are defending their homes or following orders. Humans fight because they enjoy it. I saw it in their eyes. They were having fun. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. In 3 hours of fighting, they destroyed 2 of our vehicles and killed 6 of my soldiers. We had better armor, better shields, better weapons, and more troops. It should have been impossible. How did you escape? Asked Vorthak. We retreated to our ship and left the planet. But before we went, the old human with gray hair came close to our ship. He was not afraid. He looked up at us and made gestures with his hands. Our translator said he was asking us to come back and fight. Again, the council chamber erupted in surprised sounds and confused chatter. This is madness, shouted Representative Clax. No species asks for more fighting after being defeated. Humans do, Zephyrus said simply. I spent months studying their planet from a distance. I watched their history, learned their languages, and studied their wars. Council members, humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. Not just fighting, perfecting the art of war. Surely they must have achieved peace by now, said Quill. No, they have wars happening right now as I speak to you. But here's what makes them truly terrifying. They learn from every fight. Every defeat teaches them something new. Every victory makes them hungry for a bigger challenge. Zephyrus moved closer to the council seats. Their history is full of examples. Small groups of humans defeating much larger armies. Individuals fighting against impossible odds and somehow winning. They have a saying, the difficult we do immediately. The impossible takes a little longer. Even if this is true, said Vorthak, they are still primitive. They have not even achieved faster than light travel. That is exactly why they are dangerous, Zephyrus replied. They have spent all their time and energy learning how to fight. When they finally do reach the stars, they will be the greatest warriors the galaxy has ever seen. The council chamber filled with argument and debate. Some members believed Zephyrus. Most did not. Commander, said Vorthak, raising his voice to quiet the others. Your service record is impressive, but this sounds like the fantasy of an old soldier who has seen too much war. Perhaps you should consider retirement. Or medical treatment, added Representative Yix. Battle fatigue affects even the best warriors. Zephyrus felt his heart sink. He had known this would happen, but it still hurt to see his reputation destroyed in moments. Mark my words, he said, his voice carrying across the chamber one last time. If we ever go to war with the humans, we will regret it. They do not just fight battles. They turn war itself into an art form. The council voted. The human homeworld would not be added to their target list. It was too far away, too primitive, too unimportant. As Zephyrus left the chamber, he heard the whispers following him. The great war hero had finally lost his mind. The famous commander was talking nonsense about dangerous primitives. Only time would prove him right. Admiral Krex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, and looked out at the most powerful war fleet ever assembled. 1,200 ships stretched out in perfect formation around him. Battleships longer than cities, cruisers armed with planet-killing weapons, fighter squadrons that could darken the sky of any world. He was proud of this fleet. It represented the might of the galactic hegemony, the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. For 300 years, they had expanded across the stars, bringing civilization to primitive worlds. Most species joined willingly when they saw the power arrayed against them. Those who refused were quickly conquered. Admiral called out his communications officer, a tall being with blue skin and large black eyes. We are approaching the target system. Shall I begin the standard scans? Proceed, Krex replied. He had done this dozens of times before. The routine never changed. The third planet from the local star appeared on the main screen. It was blue and green, spinning slowly in space. Krex had to admit it was beautiful. Many primitive worlds were. Scanning complete, Admiral, reported his science officer. The planet has a single intelligent species. They call themselves humans. Population approximately 8 billion. Technology level is primitive. They use chemical rockets for space travel and nuclear fission for energy. Krex nodded. This was exactly what he had expected. The reports from the Council had mentioned this world only briefly. A backward planet in an unimportant system. Any orbital defenses? He asked. A few small space stations and some primitive satellites. Nothing that could threaten our ships. They appear to have a few hundred small spacecraft, but they are limited to their own solar system. Perfect, Krex said with satisfaction. This will be over quickly. Open a channel to the planet. The communications officer worked at his controls. Channel open, Admiral. Krex straightened his uniform and put on his most commanding voice. Attention, inhabitants of the third planet. I am Admiral Krex of the Galactic Hegemony. You are surrounded by a superior force. We offer you one chance to surrender peacefully and join our empire. You will be given food, shelter, and useful work. Your culture will be preserved in our museums. You have 1 hour to respond. The bridge crew waited. Most primitive species took several minutes to respond, usually with pleas for mercy or attempts to negotiate. Some tried to offer tribute or valuable resources in exchange for their freedom. The response came in less than 10 minutes. A human face appeared on the screen, an older male with gray hair and calm eyes. He spoke in clear, precise words. Admiral Krex of the Galactic Hegemony. I am President Martinez of the United Earth Government. We have discussed your offer. Our answer is no. Krex blinked in surprise. That was not the usual response, the human continued. Furthermore, we formally declare war on the Galactic Hegemony and all its member worlds. We will fight you with everything we have. We will never surrender. We will never submit, and we will make you regret coming to our home. Several officers on the bridge looked at each other in confusion. Krex himself was speechless for a moment. A primitive species declaring war on the entire hegemony? It was absurd. You cannot be serious, Krex finally said. Look around you. We have over 1,000 ships. You have a few hundred primitive craft. This is not a war. It would be extermination. The human president smiled. It was not a friendly expression. Then come and exterminate us, Admiral. We'll be waiting. The communication ended. Sir, said his tactical officer, a reptilian being with green scales. Surely they are bluffing. No species would choose certain death over peaceful surrender. Launch the first wave, Krex ordered. Let's show them the futility of resistance. 200 fighter craft launched from the hegemony carriers. They were sleek, fast ships equipped with energy weapons and advanced targeting systems. Against primitive human craft, it should have been a simple cleanup operation. The human response surprised everyone. Instead of forming neat battle lines or attempting to flee, the human ships scattered in all directions. They flew in ways that made no tactical sense, spinning and diving and turning in patterns that seemed random. What are they doing? Asked the tactical officer. I don't know, Krex replied. But it doesn't matter. Our pilots are trained professionals. This will be over soon. But it wasn't over soon. The first hegemony fighter to be destroyed was hit by a human ship that rammed directly into it at full speed. The human pilot had deliberately crashed his own vessel into the enemy, destroying both ships. Suicide attack, reported the tactical officer. The human pilot made no attempt to escape. Before Krex could respond, it happened again. And again. Human pilots were throwing their ships at hegemony fighters without any regard for their own lives. This is madness, muttered the science officer. Why would they waste their lives like this? But the humans were not just sacrificing themselves randomly. Each suicide attack was carefully planned. They targeted the most dangerous hegemony fighters first, or they crashed into ships that were about to kill other humans. Within minutes, the tide of the battle was changing. Sir, called the communications officer, I'm picking up human transmissions. They seem to be coordinating their attacks. Put it on the speakers, Krex ordered. The bridge filled with human voices speaking rapidly in their strange language. Even through the translation system, Krex could hear the excitement in their voices. They sounded like they were enjoying themselves. Hunter Squadron, I've got 3 bogeys on my tail. Can you assist? Copy that, Sarah. Coming in hot. Nice flying, by the way. Thanks. Hey, did you see Jim's kamikaze run? Beautiful work. Yeah, he got 2 of them. The wife's going to be proud. Krex listened in growing horror. These humans were talking about suicide attacks and death like it was some kind of game. More reports came in. Human fighters were using tactics that no civilized species would consider. They attached explosive devices to their own ships and detonated them when enemy fighters got close. They used their vessels as shields to protect other humans. They even used debris from destroyed ships as weapons. Admiral, said the tactical officer, we're losing fighters faster than expected. The humans are unpredictable. Send in more ships, Krex ordered, and order our pilots to maintain safe distances. These humans fight like animals. But increasing the distance didn't help. The humans adapted quickly. They began using their primitive nuclear missiles in ways that surprised the hegemony pilots. Instead of trying to hit fast-moving targets, they detonated the weapons in the path of enemy ships, creating fields of radiation and debris that forced the aliens to change course. Then the humans did something that made Krex's blood run cold. A group of human fighters approached a hegemony cruiser. Instead of attacking with weapons, they attached themselves to the ship's hull. The cruiser's captain tried to shake them off, but the humans held on tight. "What are they doing?" Krex demanded. The answer came seconds later. The humans had placed explosive charges on the cruiser's weapon systems. The ship was disabled but not destroyed. "Sir, the human pilots are still alive. They're trying to communicate with the cruiser crew." "What do they want? To surrender?" "No, sir. They're asking the crew to surrender to them." Krex stared at the screen in disbelief. A handful of primitive fighters had disabled a ship 10 times their size and were demanding the crew's surrender. The cruiser captain, probably too shocked to think clearly, actually opened communications with the humans. "This is Captain Vex of the hegemony cruiser Slaughter. You cannot possibly hope to capture this ship. My crew number's over 3,000. The human pilot's response was cheerful. "Hi there, Captain Vex. I'm Lieutenant Rodriguez. Nice ship you've got here. Here's the deal. Your weapons are gone, your engines are damaged, and we've got enough explosives on your hull to crack you open like an egg. Surrender now and we'll treat you with respect. Keep fighting and we'll blow you up. Your choice." Captain Vex looked around his bridge at his crew. They all looked back at him with expressions of confusion and fear. This was not how space battles were supposed to work. I surrender," he said quietly. "Excellent," replied the human pilot. "Don't worry, we'll take good care of you. Oh, and thanks for the advanced weapons technology. We're really looking forward to studying it." Admiral Krex watched this exchange with growing alarm. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning. And they were doing it with tactics that made no sense according to everything he knew about warfare. "Sir," said his tactical officer, "we're receiving reports from across the battle zone. Human forces are using unconventional tactics throughout the system. They're turning asteroids into projectile weapons, using their space stations as gun platforms, and somehow coordinating attacks across impossible distances." "How many ships have we lost?" Krex asked quietly. 47 fighters and 3 cruisers, sir. The humans have lost over 100 craft, but they keep fighting." Krex realized with a sinking feeling that this was not going to be the easy conquest he had expected. These humans were nothing like any species he had ever faced. On the screen, he could see human ships regrouping for another attack. They moved with purpose and coordination that spoke of excellent training and communication. But more than that, they seemed to be learning from each engagement, adapting their tactics in real time. "Admiral," said the communications officer, "we're 3 weeks into what should have been a simple conquest." Admiral Krex stood in his private quarters staring at reports that made no sense. His fleet had been reduced to 900 operational ships, while the humans seemed to be getting stronger every day. "Admiral." His aide entered the room carrying another stack of data tablets, the latest intelligence reports from the inner system. Krex took the tablets and began reading. Each report was more disturbing than the last. The humans had somehow turned their moon into a fortress. What had been a simple satellite covered with research stations was now bristling with weapons that could destroy his largest battleships. They had hollowed out asteroids and filled them with fighters and missiles. Every piece of space debris in their system had become a potential threat. But that was not the worst part. "Tell me about the prisoners again," Krex said to his aide, a nervous creature with gray skin and large eyes. "The human prisoners, sir? They are unusual." Krex had captured over 200 human pilots and soldiers. Standard procedure was to interrogate them for tactical information. Most species broke quickly under pressure and revealed useful intelligence about their military capabilities. The humans were different. "They keep giving us false information," the aide continued. "But they deliver it so convincingly that our analysts believe it at first. We have wasted resources chasing phantom fleets and attacking empty installations because of their lies." Krex nodded grimly. Yesterday, 3 captured human pilots had convinced his intelligence officers that Earth had a secret weapon hidden on the far side of their moon. He had sent 50 ships to destroy it. They found nothing but an abandoned mining facility. "But sir, that's not the strangest part. The prisoners seem happy." Happy? Yes, sir. They joke with each other. They sing songs. They ask our guards about their families and homes. Some of them have even started teaching our soldiers human games using playing cards they made from food containers. Krex put down the tablet and rubbed his temples. In 30 years of military service, he had never encountered prisoners who acted like tourists. There's more, sir. We intercepted communications from the planet's surface. The humans are broadcasting their battles on something called television. Their entire population is watching the war like it's entertainment. What do you mean? His aide activated a small screen and showed Krex a recording from Earth's surface. It showed a human family sitting in what appeared to be their dwelling, watching footage of space battles on a large screen. The parents were cheering when human ships scored victories, and the children were asking questions about different types of spacecraft. They're not afraid, sir. They're excited. Krex watched more footage from the planet. Instead of panic and fear, he saw humans working together with incredible efficiency. Factories that had been making consumer goods were now producing weapons and spacecraft parts. Scientists who had been researching medicine were now developing new military technologies. How are they building ships so quickly? Krex asked. We don't know, sir. Our estimates suggested they could produce maybe 10 new spacecraft per week. They're actually launching 50 per day. That's impossible. Yes, sir, it should be. But they're doing it anyway. The aide showed him another recording. This one was from a human manufacturing facility. Thousands of humans worked together like a perfectly coordinated machine, assembling spacecraft with incredible speed and precision. They worked around the clock in shifts, never stopping. But what disturbed Krex most was their attitude. The workers were singing while they built instruments of war. They painted messages on the ships they built, things like "Give them hell, boys," and "With love from Detroit." They're treating this like a celebration, Krex muttered. There's something else, sir. The weapons they're building now are different from what they had at the start of the war. Krex looked up sharply. Different how? They've been studying our captured technology. In 3 weeks, they've reverse-engineered our energy shields, our targeting systems, and our hull materials. Their new ships have weapons that are nearly as powerful as ours. Nearly. In some cases, more powerful. They've made improvements to our designs. Krex felt a chill run down his spine. The humans were not just copying alien technology. They were making it better. Show me the latest battle footage, he ordered. The screen displayed scenes from yesterday's engagement near the human planet's largest moon. Human fighters moved with tactics that were completely different from their early desperate attacks. They fought in coordinated formations, used advanced weapons with deadly precision, and employed strategies that forced Krex's ships into carefully prepared traps. Look at this section. Sir, the aide pointed to a specific part of the recording. The humans baited our cruiser squadron into pursuing what appeared to be a damaged human ship. When our ships entered this area, they triggered a trap. Krex watched as hidden human ships emerged from behind the moon and caught his cruisers in a crossfire. But that was not the clever part. The clever part was that the damaged human ship had been broadcasting false engine signatures to make it seem crippled, when it was actually fully functional. They tricked our sensors, Krex said quietly. Yes, sir. And this tactic worked so well that they used variations of it in 3 other battles this week. Krex realized with growing alarm that the humans were learning faster than any species he had ever encountered. Each battle taught them something new about his ships, his weapons, and his tactics. And they remembered everything. Sir, the aide continued, there's something else you need to see. The screen showed intercepted human communications from their military command center. A group of human officers were planning their next series of attacks. But instead of looking worried or desperate, they seemed to be having fun. General Morrison, one human was saying, what if we attach ramming prows to our heavy cruisers? The aliens seem to think we won't risk close combat. Interesting idea, Colonel Parks, but why stop there? What if we program the cruisers to ram automatically if the crew is killed? Turn each ship into a guided missile? Brilliant. And we could load them with nuclear warheads. Even if they can't ram, they can detonate and take enemy ships with them. The humans around the table began laughing and adding more ideas. They talked about strapping explosives to asteroids and launching them at alien ships. They discussed using their communication satellites as bombs. One human suggested training their whales to attack underwater alien installations. They're insane, Krex whispered. But as he watched more footage, he realized it wasn't insanity. It was creativity applied to warfare in ways he had never seen before. The humans treated each battle like a puzzle to be solved, and they found solutions that no military academy would ever teach. Admiral, the communications officer's voice came over the intercom. We're receiving a transmission from the human planet. Put it through. President Martinez appeared on the screen, but he looked different now. He was wearing what appeared to be a military uniform, and there were maps and tactical displays visible behind him. Admiral Krex, the human leader said pleasantly, I hope you're enjoying your extended stay in our system. I thought you might be interested in some news from home. Krex felt his stomach tighten. What news? Well, we've been monitoring your communications with the Hegemony Command. It seems they're having some problems in other sectors. Pirates, rebellions, trade disruptions. Funny how these things seem to happen when military forces are away from home. The human president smiled. Oh, and Admiral, we know you've been requesting reinforcements. Just so you know, we've been monitoring your supply lines. Some of your cargo ships seem to have developed mechanical problems lately. The transmission ended, leaving Krex staring at a blank screen. Sir, his aide said quietly, we have received reports of supply ship losses. 6 vessels in the past week. They all suffered what appeared to be engine failures. Engine failures don't usually result in complete ship destruction. Krex replied. No, sir, and the failures all happened in uninhabited star systems along our supply routes. Krex understood. The humans had somehow figured out his supply lines and were attacking ships far from the battle zone. They were thinking strategically, not just tactically. How? He asked. How could they possibly have ships operating outside their own system? We don't know, sir, but we've confirmed the losses. And there are reports of strange ships being sighted in several border systems. Krex walked to the viewport and looked out at the human planet. It still looked peaceful and beautiful, spinning slowly in space. But he now understood that he was not looking at a primitive world defended by desperate survivors. He was looking at the homeworld of a species that had turned warfare into an art form. Sir, the aide said hesitantly, there's one more thing. Our intelligence division has been analyzing human historical records. They wanted to understand how this species fights. And, sir, humans have been fighting wars continuously for over 5,000 years. Not just occasional conflicts, constant warfare. They have detailed records of millions of battles, thousands of different tactics and weapons development that spans millennia. That's impossible. No species could survive that much conflict. That's what we thought, sir. But humans receiving another tray. Admiral Krex stood in his command center surrounded by holographic displays showing the current state of the Sol system. What he saw filled him with a dread he had never experienced before. In 6 weeks, the humans had transformed their entire solar system into the most heavily fortified military zone he had ever encountered. Every moon, every asteroid, every piece of space debris had been turned into a weapon or a fortress. The humans had built weapons platforms that drifted through space like sleeping giants, waiting to awaken when enemy ships came too close. They had created mobile shipyards that could build new vessels while moving between planets. Most disturbing of all, they had turned their own space stations into massive guns that could punch holes through his heaviest battleships. Status report, Krex ordered his tactical officer. Sir, our effective fleet strength is now at 412 operational vessels. The humans have approximately 800 active ships in their defensive fleet, with new vessels joining them every day. Krex felt his chest tighten. When he had arrived, the humans had maybe 300 primitive spacecraft. Now they outnumbered him and their ships were equipped with technology that matched or exceeded his own. How is this possible? He asked, though he already knew the answer would disturb him. The humans have established manufacturing centers on 17 different moons and asteroids throughout their system. They're producing approximately 100 new ships per week. But sir, that's not the worst part. Continue. The new human ships are not copies of their original designs or our captured technology. They're completely new designs that incorporate the best features of both human and hegemony engineering. A holographic display showed the latest human warship design. It was sleek and deadly, with weapon systems that Krex's scientists couldn't fully understand and armor that seemed to be stronger than anything in the hegemony fleet. They've surpassed us, Krex said quietly. In many areas, yes sir. Their ships are faster, more maneuverable and carry more firepower than equivalent hegemony vessels. But there's something else. The tactical officer activated another display showing recent battle footage. Watch this engagement from yesterday, sir. Notice how the human ships move. Krex watched as human vessels flowed through space like schools of fish, never getting in each other's way, perfectly coordinated in their attacks and retreats. They moved with a grace and precision that spoke of thousands of hours of training and natural talent. They're not just building better ships, the tactical officer continued. They're becoming better pilots. Every engagement teaches them something new, and they adapt faster than we can counter their innovations. Show me the latest intelligence on their commanders, Krex ordered. The display changed to show profiles of human military leaders. Admiral Sarah Chen, who had developed the tactic of using asteroids as kinetic weapons. General Marcus Thompson, who specialized in coordinated attacks using hundreds of small ships. Colonel Elena Vasquez, who had figured out how to hack into hegemony communication systems and eavesdrop on alien battle plans. But the profiles revealed something that chilled Krex to his core. These were not career military officers who had spent decades learning their craft. Most of them had been civilian scientists, engineers, and business leaders just 6 weeks ago. The humans had taken ordinary people and turned them into military geniuses in a matter of weeks. Sir, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a priority transmission from Hegemony Command. Put it through. The holographic display showed Supreme Commander Yalax, the overall leader of Hegemony military forces. His expression was grim. Admiral Krex, I have reviewed your reports. The situation is unprecedented. Yes, sir. I urgently need reinforcements. At least 2 more fleets. That's why I'm contacting you, Admiral. There will be no reinforcements. Krex felt the blood drain from his face. Sir? Admiral, we are facing rebellions in 12 different sectors. Our supply lines are under constant attack by what appear to be human ships operating far from their home system. 3 of our major shipyards have been destroyed by unknown attackers using human tactics. How is that possible? The humans don't have faster-than-light travel. They do now, Admiral. They reverse-engineered our FTL systems in 4 weeks and improved on the design. Human ships have been spotted as far as 200 light-years from their homeworld. Krex sat down heavily in his command chair. The implications hit him like a physical blow. Admiral, Supreme Commander Yalax continued, the humans are not just defending their homeworld. They are conducting a galaxy-wide campaign against the hegemony. They appear to have made contact with species we have conquered, and are providing them with weapons and tactical support. Sir, we need to withdraw our forces and regroup. Withdrawal may not be possible, Admiral. Human forces now control the hyperspace routes leading out of their system. You are effectively surrounded. The communication ended, leaving Krex staring at displays that showed his strategic situation growing worse by the hour. Sir, his aide approached hesitantly. There's been a development with the prisoners. What now? They've escaped, sir. What, how? They built tools from food containers and medical supplies, picked the locks on their cells, overpowered the guards, and stole 3 shuttles. They're now broadcasting propaganda messages throughout our fleet. What kind of messages? His aide activated a speaker, and a cheerful human voice filled the command center. Attention, Hegemony forces. This is Lieutenant Maria Santos of the Earth Defense Force. I just want to say thanks for the hospitality during my stay aboard the Dominator. The food was terrible, but the conversation was great. To the crew of this ship, you seem like decent people fighting for a bad cause. Why don't you just go home? We promise we'll let you leave peacefully if you stop shooting at us. And to Admiral Krex, the voice continued, thanks for the tour of your ship's systems. We learned a lot about hegemony technology. That information is being put to good use right now. Krex realized with horror that the escaped prisoners had been gathering intelligence the entire time they were captive. Information about his ships, his weapons, his tactics, all of it now in human hands. Sir, the tactical officer called out, we're detecting multiple human ships approaching our position. How many? 200 vessels, sir. But these are different from previous attacks. These ships are larger and appear to be heavily armed. The main display showed the approaching human fleet. The ships were indeed larger than anything the humans had fielded before, and they moved with a confidence that suggested they knew something Krex didn't. Admiral Krex, a new human voice came over the communication system. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Fleet. I believe you're familiar with our work. Krex recognized the name from the intelligence files. She was the human who had developed kinetic asteroid weapons. We would like to discuss terms for your surrender. Admiral Chen continued. Surrender? Krex almost laughed. You're outnumbered. I still have over 400 ships. Admiral, you might want to look at your tactical display more carefully. Krex studied the screen and felt his blood turn to ice. The human ships were not alone. Surrounding his fleet were thousands of objects that he had dismissed as space debris, but as he watched, those objects began to move with purpose. Automated weapons platforms, his tactical officer said quietly. They've turned every piece of debris in this area into a remote-controlled weapon. You see, Admiral, Chen's voice continued conversationally, while you've been fighting the ships you could see, we've been surrounding you with the ships you couldn't. You're not facing 200 human vessels. You're facing over 3,000. The tactical display updated to show the true situation. Krex's fleet was surrounded by a cloud of human weapons that had been disguised as harmless debris. Asteroids that were actually missile platforms. Disabled satellites that were actually armed drones. Even what appeared to be wreckage from previous battles had been turned into remote-controlled bombs. This is impossible, Krex whispered. Admiral, Chen said, and her tone was almost sympathetic. You're fighting a species that has been at war with itself for 5,000 years. We've had a lot of practice. You're good soldiers fighting for a powerful empire. But we're artists and war is our art. What do you want? Your surrender. Complete and unconditional. In return, we'll treat your crews with respect and allow them to return home safely. We have no interest in ruling other species or conquering territory. We just want to be left alone. Krex looked around his bridge at officers who had served with him for decades. They all looked back at him with expressions that mixed fear, confusion, and the beginning of acceptance. And if I refuse, then in approximately 10 minutes your entire fleet will be destroyed. We've calculated the optimal firing solutions for every ship in your formation. This isn't a bluff, Admiral. We're just trying to minimize unnecessary casualties. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, I'm receiving surrender requests from 17 of our ship commanders. They're terrified, his tactical officer added. They've never faced an enemy like this. Krex realized that his officers were right to be afraid. The humans had not just outfought them, they had completely outthought them. Every move the hegemony fleet had made had been anticipated and countered. The Grand Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 47 species shouted at each other in dozens of languages, while holographic displays showed the complete destruction of Admiral Krex's fleet. Council leader Vorthak pounded his gavel repeatedly, trying to restore order, but few were listening. Commander Zephyrus sat in the back of the chamber, watching the panic with a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. 6 months ago, these same beings had called him mad for warning them about the humans. Now they were learning the truth of his words, but it might be too late. Order, Vorthak shouted. We will have order in this chamber. Gradually the noise died down. Representatives took their seats, but the fear in their eyes was unmistakable. We are here to discuss the crisis in the Sol system, Vorthak announced. Admiral Krex's entire fleet has been destroyed or captured. The humans have refused all attempts at negotiation, and we have confirmed reports of human ships operating throughout hegemony space. Representative Quill, the tentacled being who had mocked Zephyrus months earlier, stood up with obvious difficulty. How is this possible? He demanded. Our intelligence report said they were primitive. They didn't even have faster-than-light travel. They have it now, replied General Korax, the hegemony's chief military strategist. They reverse-engineered our FTL drives and improved them. Human ships are now faster than ours. Improved them? Gasped Representative Yix, the crystal being. In 6 weeks? In 4 weeks, actually. They spent the other 2 weeks building the improved drives and installing them in their ships. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. General Korax, said Vorthak, what is our current military situation? The holographic displays changed to show a map of hegemony space. Large portions of it were now marked in red. We have confirmed human attacks in 37 star systems, Korax reported. They are not attempting to conquer territory, but they are systematically destroying our military installations and freeing conquered species. Freeing them? Yes. The humans are providing advanced weapons and tactical training to species we have conquered. Many of our subject worlds are now in open rebellion. Representative Klax, the tree-like being, swayed as if caught in a strong wind. This cannot be happening. We are the galactic hegemony. We have ruled space for 300 years. We ruled space, Korax corrected grimly. Past tense. What do the humans want? Asked Vorthak. What are their terms for peace? General Corax activated another display showing recorded human communications. They have made their position very clear. They want the hegemony to dissolve completely. All conquered worlds are to be given their independence. All hegemony military forces are to surrender. And all species are to promise never to attack Earth or its allies. Allies? Vorthak looked confused. What allies? Approximately 40 species have already signed mutual defense pacts with the humans. More are joining every day. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Zephyrus watched as the same representatives who had dismissed his warnings now realized the scope of the disaster they faced. Sir? An aide ran into the chamber carrying urgent messages. We have reports coming in from the outer systems. Human fleets have been spotted near Kalthros, Vexinar, and New Helios. Those systems are hundreds of light years apart, said Vorthak. How many ships do they have? We don't know, sir. But they seem to be everywhere at once. Zephyrus finally stood up and walked slowly to the speaking platform. The chamber fell quiet as the old warrior approached. Honored Council, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. 6 months ago I stood in this same place and warned you about the humans. You called me mad. You said I was suffering from battle fatigue. You dismissed my concerns about a primitive species that could barely leave their own planet. No one interrupted him this time. I told you that humans were different from any species we had ever encountered. I told you they had turned warfare into an art form. I told you they would be the most dangerous enemies we could possibly face. Zephyrus looked around the chamber at faces filled with fear and regret. You didn't listen. You were so confident in our technological superiority, so certain that primitive species could never threaten the mighty hegemony, that you ignored the warnings of someone who had actually fought them. Commander, Vorthak said quietly, we were wrong. What do you recommend we do now? Now? Zephyrus almost laughed. Now it's too late. The humans are no longer the primitive species I encountered 3 years ago. They have learned everything they need to know about our technology, our tactics, and our weaknesses. They have superior ships, better weapons, and allies throughout the galaxy. But surely we can negotiate, pleaded Representative Quill. With what? Zephyrus asked. What do we have that they want? They have proven they can take anything they need by force. They have shown they can defeat our best fleets and capture our most advanced technology. General Corax stepped forward. Commander Zephyrus, you know these humans better than anyone. What will they do to us? Zephyrus was quiet for a long moment, remembering his encounter with the humans years earlier. That depends, he said finally. The humans I met were not evil. They were not cruel. They were warriors who fought hard but treated their enemies with respect. If we surrender completely and honestly, they may allow us to exist peacefully. And if we continue to fight, then they will destroy us completely. They have the capability now, and they have proven they have the will to use it. The chamber fell silent again. Outside, through the tall windows, they could see ships in orbit around their capital world. But for the first time in centuries, those ships belonged to an enemy fleet. Sir? The aide who had brought the earlier messages approached Vorthak hesitantly. We're receiving a transmission from the human fleet commander. Put it through. A holographic display activated, showing a human female in a neat military uniform. She looked young, but her eyes held the confidence of someone who had won many battles. Honored members of the Galactic Council, she said, I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. I understand you have been discussing your surrender. We have made no decision about surrender, Vorthak replied stiffly. With respect, Council Leader Vorthak, you have no choice in the matter. Your military forces have been defeated. Your empire is collapsing. Your subject worlds are free. The only question remaining is whether this transition happens peacefully or violently. What are your terms? Asked General Corax. Complete dissolution of the galactic hegemony. Independence for all conquered worlds. Dismantling of all offensive military forces. And a formal apology to every species you have oppressed. And in return, peace. We have no interest in ruling you or conquering your worlds. We just want to be left alone to explore space and make friends with whoever wants to be our friends. Representative Yik stood up, his crystal body reflecting the chamber's lights. What guarantee do we have that you won't simply become the new oppressors? Admiral Chen smiled. It was not an unfriendly expression. You have the guarantee of our history, Representative Yix. We have been fighting wars for thousands of years, but we have never been conquerors. We fight when we have to, but we prefer to build rather than destroy. And if we refuse your terms, the smile faded from the human admiral's face. Then we will continue our current operations until your military forces no longer exist. But I hope that won't be necessary. Enough people have died already. Commander Zephyrus stepped forward. Admiral Chen, I am Commander Zephyrus. I encountered human forces several years ago. Ah, Commander Zephyrus. We've studied your service record. An impressive career. You tried to warn your people about us, didn't you? I did. They didn't listen. That seems to happen a lot with military intelligence. No offense to your people, Commander, but your government made a serious mistake when they decided to invade our homeworld. I know. What will happen to those who served the hegemony faithfully? Many of us were just following orders. Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly. Commander, humans understand the concept of duty. Soldiers who served honorably will be treated with respect. Officers who committed war crimes will face justice. But good people who were serving a bad system will be allowed to go home and live in peace. She turned to address the entire council. That offer extends to all of you. We're not interested in revenge. We're interested in building a better future for everyone. Council Leader Vorthak looked around the chamber at his fellow representatives. He could see in their faces that they had already made their decision. Admiral Chen, he said formally, the Galactic Council accepts your terms. The hegemony will be dissolved. Our military forces will stand down. We surrender unconditionally. Thank you, Council Leader. You've made the right choice. As the human admiral's image faded, Zephyrus found himself surrounded by fellow council members who had ignored his warnings months earlier. Commander, said Representative Quill quietly, we owe you an apology. You owe me nothing, Zephyrus replied. But you owe something to every soldier who died in this war because you wouldn't listen to intelligence that could have prevented it. What will you do now? Asked Representative Clax. Zephyrus looked out the window at the human ships in orbit. They were sleek and powerful, but they weren't threatening the planet below.